All right, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Hope you all having a good day so far. Many times now have I gotten the request to check out Clayton Crowley, this channel, and specifically the Making the Case series. And I went down a rabbit hole and I didn't watch them, but I found so many interesting sounding videos. So he does videos about making the case for the best team of all time, and then also best players of all time. Today I just picked one out and I decided it's time to finally check out one of his videos since I have so many I need to get to. This one is called Making the Case, 1996 Bulls. This would be your 72-10 Chicago Bulls, and I believe the greatest team of all time. Not by individual standpoint, but as far as the actual team and what they were able to accomplish, and the fact that they brought home that championship at the end of it, greatest team of all time. Now, as always, I'm going to link the original video down below in the description if you want to watch it without my commentary. Everybody else, please leave this video a like. Yeah, please leave this video a like, and let's get right to this. I'm excited.
Why this Bulls team? Weirdly, that's a question I anticipate people asking. Between the 1990-91 season and the 97-98 season, the Chicago Bulls won 6 championships behind the efforts of Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and head coach Phil Jackson. Each was punctuated with immortal, memorable scenes. A crying Jordan holding his first trophy, a shrug, a flu, and more than one iconic series icing shot. Why this team and not another? People who...
It's hard. The 92 or the 93 Bulls, pretty damn good too.
Fancied themselves basketball snobs occasionally sort out those who submit the 96 Bulls into this discussion. No way, they say. The 91 and 92 Bulls were way better. Michael and Scottie were younger, the league was more competitive, and they had way more depth on the front line. Yeah, the 96 Bulls record is impressive, but the league had expanded. New teams had diluted the talent pool and created a vacuum. For you to say that the 96 Bulls are the best just goes to show that you don't really know what you're talking about.
Casual.
You probably love Patrick Beverley, don't you, you filthy casual? And those are some valid points. Michael and Scottie were younger. The league was more competitive. And those teams did not suffer from the same dearth of talent in their big men that the 96 squad did. So, here's the facts. They went 72-10, the best record to that point in NBA history.
Yeah, I'm just saying it. The 92 Bulls were the most scary team I think I've ever seen because of the way they played defense, the way they just swarmed all over the place. It was nonstop attack. But this is, you watch games from 96 and it just, from 95, 96, and they just made it look so damn easy. So it's like they cracked the code. What was a more talented team? I don't know, maybe 92. This
and
is
the
hard.
First team to win over 70 games. Their 87-13 overall record is the highest winning percentage of any team ever. They paced the field in nearly every important statistic and still have the highest net rating for a single season ever.
All right, real quick. This is hella impressive, but if people want to make the argument that there was, it's expansion era and yada yada, well, that doesn't play any effect in the playoffs because that's only the best teams now. So any of those, teams that were so-called crappy, well, they're not here. And they went 15-3 in the playoffs. So
still have the highest net rating for a single season ever. Their roster consisted of Hall of Famers Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Dennis Rodman. Tony Kukoc came off the bench as one of the best sixth men of all time.
Yep.
Ron Harper was a defensive specialist at point guard. Steve Kerr and Judd Buechler provided offense off the bench, while Luke Longley and Bill Wennington manned the middle. Why not use a different Bulls team? Because by nearly every metric that we use to measure teams, this team is not only clearly the best Chicago Bulls team ever, it is the greatest NBA team ever. They won more games than any other champion has ever won. That alone should count for something. The
Yep.
entire goal of the sport is to win games and win the championship.
Yeah, they
And
did
the
it.
Bulls did it better than anyone. Their resume is immaculate. 72-10 and the chip, yeah. But Michael Jordan was the league MVP and leading scorer. Dennis Rodman won the rebounding title. Phil Jackson won Coach of the Year. Jerry Krause won Executive of the Year. Tony Kukoc won Sixth Man of the Year. Mike, Scotty, and Dennis made First Team All-Defense. And Michael and Scotty were both named to First Team All-NBA. No matter where you look on this team, all you find are the hallmarks of excellence.
Yeah, it's true.
Where else do you start than with the greatest basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan? Sure, he was younger in 91 and 92. You could make the argument that he was a better individual talent then, but give me this Michael over the rest. After a nearly 2-year hiatus to pursue a dream of professional baseball, Jordan returned as a more mature, more evolved player. He doesn't fly quite as high as he used to, but he doesn't need to. He's smarter than he's ever been.
Yeah, he was.
He picks his spots and knows exactly how to get there.
He used so much less energy. Not to say he wasn't playing hard. He was so much smarter out there.
He's still the most lethal scorer in the league, still the nightmarish amalgamation of quickness,
Jesus.
strength, touch, speed, shooting, and know-how. His drives to the basket still draw the breath of every spectator across the globe. He trusts his teammates, kicking them the ball when they get open or as he gets doubled. He still has the abilities to wreak havoc on the defensive end and does so with zeal. He doesn't take nights off and he doesn't get tired. He led the league in minutes and played in all of Chicago's 100 games that season.
Damn.
As I have said before, a basketball in Michael Jordan's hand is the defining image of the sport. It feels like they were made for each other, and that we should celebrate the fact that they were able to intersect. He was the best offensive player in the game, able to score seemingly at will from everywhere on the court, had developed into a capable and willing passer, defended at one of the highest levels in the league, and,
Good Lord.
dare I say it, took nearly every matchup personally.
Yeah, for sure.
Right alongside him, as he was for every championship campaign in Bulls history, was Scottie Pippen. Often cited as the greatest sidekick in basketball and perhaps all of sports, the moniker should carry no insult when applied to Pippen. The 6'7" forward with the 7'3" wingspan from Central Arkansas made it all work and goes down as arguably the most complete basketball player of the 1990s.
Part of the case for the earlier teams would be Pippen was much healthier back then. So if you watch Pippen in the first three-peat versus the second three-peat, he was a monster in those first three championships. Second three, he was really on the physical decline rapidly. So,
He filled in the blanks, as Chuck Daly once said, with passing, scoring, ball handling, defense, confidence, and leadership. Whatever the team needed, Scotty provided. To his own individual credit, during Jordan's first year playing baseball, Pippen finished third in MVP voting, and the Bulls were competing as legitimate championship contenders.
yep.
The following season, again without Jordan, Pippen led the Bulls in every major statistical category. By 96, Pippen had settled comfortably into an average of 20 points, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds a night. And did I forget to mention that Pippen might well be the best perimeter defender in NBA history?
Yeah, he's pretty damn good.
Well, Scottie Pippen might well be the best perimeter defender in NBA history. It was Pippen who was often given the responsibility of guarding the opposing team's best scorer, a fate similar to being sentenced to Alcatraz. Scottie was made to play defense and did it with every inch and ounce of his body. On that end of the floor, he was nearly as destructive as Jordan was on offense. Yes, it's true that Scottie succeeded next to Jordan. But it's just as true that Jordan only succeeded next to Pippen. They formed a perfect partnership,
Yep.
different in so many complementary
1-2.
ways. Where Michael's intense competitiveness led him to berate and criticize his teammates in order to get the most out of them,
You know, and it's true the way he's getting at this, because Pippen truly does complement Jordan's game. because he's not a scorer. He's not a pure scorer like Jordan is. So he got to divert energy towards other things other than just mass scoring like Jordan did. And I always have to bring it up because I'm living with it here in Arizona. But it's a lot better of a duo like that, filling in each other's gaps as opposed to Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and Bradley Beal. 3 offensive-minded score, like they're scorers. None of them play great defense. And yeah, they're all doing the same exact thing out there. That's not well built.
It is universally said that Pippen's presence was just as necessary. The yin to Jordan's yang, with his amicable demeanor and willingness to put his arm around teammates. It was his contributions and sacrifices, as much as anything, that put the Chicago Bulls in position night in and night out to succeed. You cannot construct a more complementary team player for nearly any roster or play style than Scottie Pippen. Rounding out the big 3 was the most enigmatic man in the show, Dennis Rodman. When I made a video talking about the 1989 Pistons, I mentioned that the Pistons' Dennis Rodman was not the one with the hair or the tattoos or the relationship with actresses like Madonna and Carmen Electra. This version of Dennis Rodman is that guy.
Yep.
As his life and career progressed into the 90s, Rodman's behavior became erratic. His personality, eccentric. Following a less than stellar stint with the Spurs,
Demolition
the
Man era.
34-year-old Rodman was traded to the Bulls in advance of the 95-96 season. Of note, Rodman was and is the best pound-for-pound rebounder of all time. It's not an argument.
Yeah, I agree.
He paced the league in boards with 14.9 a game. David Robinson was second with 12.2. Dennis Rodman averaged 22% more rebounds than David Robinson and couldn't have been more than 1.5 inches taller than Michael Jordan. If you saw The Last Dance, you might remember a sequence where Dennis rambles about the different ways that the ball will fly off the rim based off of who's shooting, from where, and with what kind of spin. It's edited in a funny way that makes Dennis seem equal parts savant and eccentric. But the thing is, that's the way his brain really works. Even going back to the 90s, there are accounts of Dennis watching replays and explaining that somehow,
That was a pass.
somewhere in his brain, there is a mechanism.
Look at this. It's like Jar Jar Binks from Star Wars, but it's just freaking effective.
His brain really works. Even going back to the 90s, there are accounts of Dennis watching replays and explaining that somehow, somewhere in his brain, there is a mechanism that can project, predict, and intuit angles and trajectories based off of the most imperceptible of variables. He studied tape not necessarily to discern how different teams handled pick and rolls, but to put to memory the way a Patrick Ewing finger roll behaves off the rim, or the exhaustive possibilities that a Gary Payton shot presents. When training camp began with the Bulls, Rodman insisted that he rebound for Jordan and Pippen while they shot before practice, so as to commit their variables to memory. And don't forget, Rodman was still a pest of a defender. He was called the Worm for a reason. He could and did effectively guard centers, despite giving up 4 or 5 inches. He could deny entry passes, stand his ground in the post, and outthink or outmuscle even the greats of the era. You might be tempted to call Rodman a one-dimensional player. And while it's true that he was never much of an offensive threat as a scorer or passer, I can't think of a better team to remedy those weaknesses than the one with the greatest score of all time on it.
Yeah. That's all we needed him to do was play defense and rebound. Jordan had the offense covered.
Rodman doesn't score? Fine. He doesn't need to.
No, he doesn't.
He can commit himself to the things that he loves and that he's good at, which is being an all-league defender and a game-changing, series-altering, morale-crushing rebounder. What's it matter if a pitcher can only throw one pitch, if it's a 120-mile-an-hour fastball? And the rest of the Bulls were as decorated and as talented as you will find on an NBA roster. Tony Kukoc came off the bench as an overqualified reserve, winning the 6th Man of the Year award and finishing the regular season as the team's 3rd leading scorer. He was a great shooter, terrific passer, and as a long, versatile 6'11 small forward, presented matchup problems at both ends.
He ended up being used as like a Ginobili prototype. fantastic six-man. Really had no business coming off the bench, but they weren't about to swap him for Scottie Pippen. So they had him coming off the bench, but fantastic six-man.
Ron Harper, the team's point guard, embraced the role of defensive specialist, offering no sanctuary for players deemed unworthy to be guarded by Jordan or Pippen. Steve Kerr came off the bench as a backup guard and helped space the floor and provide sparks of offense in his limited minutes, thanks to the fact that he is still the most accurate three-point shooter in basketball history. And yeah, okay, Bill Wennington and Luke Longley weren't stars at center.
Not even close.
But they didn't really need to be. Rodman more than picked up their slack. These teams from the past that sacrifice center production in favor of more versatile perimeter players tend to project well into the modern game.
Yeah, but if we had Shaq or Patrick Ewing or Dave Robinson or Hakeem Olajuwon, it would be freaking amazing. So it's not that they didn't need a center. They just made it work even without one. But hell yeah, if you would have had a really good center down there, just dominating in the post, forget about it. It wouldn't have even been fair.
At the same time, though, this lack of talented size does leave them ripe for critics who suggest that they couldn't stand a chance against a dominant center. Which line of thinking is correct? I don't know. But I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to the team that went 72-10 in a league with Hakeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, David Robinson, and Shaquille O'Neal. I don't know. Call it a hunch. I also want to take a minute and talk about the mindset of this Bulls team. To do that, we have to talk about the Zen Master.
Yeah.
There's some debate as to how important head coaches are to the success of NBA teams, but Phil Jackson is one of the ones who mattered. His unconventional approach to coaching centered on presence of mind and borrowed philosophies and techniques from everywhere, from the Sioux tribes to Zen Buddhism. As much as he preached the tenets of the triangle offense, emphasizing spacing, taking what the defense gave you, and playing with intent, he imbued the Bulls with a sense of the moment. Today only happens once. You only get to play the game for so long, and teams like this don't come around often. With the oldest roster in the league, the Bulls took these lessons to heart, ran his system beautifully, and never found a moment that was bigger than they were. This team had the eye of the tiger. That's thanks to Phil Jackson, and thanks to Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Michael Jordan was the top of the food chain. He was an apex predator. He had no rivals, never found an equal. He competed and wanted to win to a fault. Nobody trained harder than he did. The legend of Michael Jordan is one of a man who never, not one time, got outworked. And that work ethic was applied unilaterally to his teammates. They were berated and held to the highest standard of performance in professional sports by a pathologically competitive maniac. As a result, every member of the '96 Bulls was honed like a blade. You had to be a stone-cold competitor with ice in your veins to run with Jordan. You have to take that into account when talking about the greatest teams of all time. If teams take on the identity of their best player, then this team is unlike any other. You can talk about matchups and schemes and systems all you want.
Yeah.
This team goes into every game with a Michael Jordan mindset.
Yeah, and that's was all established in practice. So those kind of crazy, insane practices that were led by Jordan with that kind of intensity, it prepared them for what was to come in the playoffs, and that's why they never truly looked phased.
They don't just expect to beat you. They don't just expect to win. They want to decimate you. They're the alpha dog, constantly looking for challenges, waiting for somebody to return their gaze. They want the fight. As they entered the playoffs, they put the pressure on themselves. They knew their 72 wins would be discounted if they didn't win the championship. As they proudly proclaimed, it don't mean a thing without the ring. But if you want to talk about matchups and schemes, we can do that too. First question, what the hell are you going to do with Jordan? Once he'd reached this height of his powers, he was virtually unstoppable. Gary Payton had his moment against Jordan in the finals, and the insinuation that he could have changed the series had he guarded him sooner generated one of the defining memes of The Last Dance.
Yeah.
And okay, let's say
I just rewatched it a couple of weeks ago. The Last Dance. It hit just as hard the second time, or the third time now that I've seen the whole series. Him laughing at Gary Payton, man, is just classic. I saw Gary Payton react to that. They asked him, what he thought about it, and he was like, "Man, he has to laugh at me. That's what makes Michael Jordan Michael Jordan. He can't admit that I stopped him or that I was playing good defense on him. He can't give that to me. Then he wouldn't be Michael Jordan." Funniest shit I've ever seen.
Do somehow slow down the best scorer to ever play basketball. Scottie Pippen was practically designed to pick up the slack and adjust on the fly. You cannot stop both, and Scottie is going to make you pay not just by himself, but by involving the rest of the team and acting as the new distribution hub of the offense. Nobody ran the triangle better than the Bulls, which meant that every player had to stay ready for their moment. The ball moved around, everybody got a chance, shooters consistently got clean looks, and it would only make it easier for everyone else if the opponent focuses too much on Michael. Kukoc was a killer. Steve Kerr didn't miss. And
Barely
even
shot,
Mike
though.
himself was shooting over 40% from three this year. The role players fit perfectly alongside the stars, and the result is an offense that was built to counter opposing strategies.
Look at that ball movement.
And the defense? There are 5 players on the NBA's all-defensive first team.
I think I've seen this, but let me look at it again.
Defense? There are 5 players
Jordan
on the NBA's
blocking the fucking hell out of Shaq.
all-defensive first team, essentially representing the best 5 defenders in the league at their position. The Bulls had 3 of those 5 players. Plus, with Kukoc able to play in big lineups and Ron Harper standing 6'6", the Bulls can switch practically everything and offer an endless amount of versatility. And despite their lack of premium centers, the Bulls were a top 4 team in rebounding thanks to, the best rebounder in the league. A precision offense with the sharpest of spearheads. A defensive squad that rivals any lineup in history, and the versatility and switchability that modern teams would drool over. How can the Bulls be any more impressive? I'll tell you how. At the end of the 1993 NBA Finals, Michael Jordan had led the Bulls to their 3rd straight championship, a feat not accomplished since the 1960s. He had achieved worldwide fame and was being hailed as the greatest basketball player ever. And then, suddenly, he walked away. He plugged away in minor league baseball to varying degrees of success.
Hey, he was getting
And the
getting
Bulls
good.
tried to make sense of life after Jordan to varying degrees of success. After nearly 2 full years away from the game, Jordan returned for his second act, signaled with 2 simple words. He played the final 17 games of the 95 regular season, complete with a 55-point explosion in MSG and a game winner against the Atlanta Hawks. He looked good, but he didn't quite look like the Michael Jordan of old.
Yep.
His body wasn't in the same kind of shape. His shot didn't go down the way it used to. And he made mistakes that made him look human, a heretical label for his airness. In the second round of the playoffs, for the first time in over half a decade, Michael Jordan lost, defeated at the hands of Shaquille O'Neal's Orlando Magic in 6 games. The questions began almost instantly. The Bulls traded for Dennis Rodman. That guy's a head case, right?
Yeah.
Are they desperate? Pippen had accrued
That's
extra
what we all thought, because he just, San Antonio couldn't handle him. Nobody could handle him. So I was not sold on the Dennis Rodman thing until it worked. When it worked, I'm like, okay, that was brilliant.
miles while Jordan was gone. How could his body hold up? And most importantly, was it possible that Michael Jordan could still be Michael Jordan? The bar had never been higher for an athlete. Michael Jordan was the standard. He was basketball. How could he walk away and come back nearly 2 years later, step into an almost completely new roster?
I highly suggest you do. Lots of cool stuff on there. So if you enjoyed this video, he's got plenty of other stuff like this. And we'll slowly get to checking it out over here on this channel as well. But all right, everybody, leave the video a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you want more. Have a wonderful day out there, and let me know what your greatest Bulls team of all time is. All right, peace out.